Hello, this is James Spencer from Spencer Music and Artist Development, located in Belmont Shore area of Long Beach in California. And this is my third video for singers. And today we're going to be talking specifically about diction and pronunciation. One of the most important things of singing is, of course, to be understood. However, a lot of beginners don't really recognize that the way we sing specific words is very different than the way we speak them in our dialects around the U.S. So the couple of basic diction rules I'm going to teach you today will help you to get a much more uniformed sound. And so let's get started. These are Diction 101 rules for singers. Okay, so the first rules of diction I would like to talk about concern the letter R. R is a letter in the English language that can be very challenging for singers. Let me make the R sound the way most Americans do it. R. And you can hear that that's really back on the throat, and that's not good to sing that way. Let me sing a word with R incorrectly. Let's take the word after. I'm going to just sing it down the scale wrong. Okay, so wrong first. After. Ooh, pretty ugly, huh? Sounds really, in the back of the throat, it sounds guttural. Not the best sound. So there are several rules for the letter R, and we're going to talk about them. The first one is that any word in English that ends in an R, you're going to leave the R off the word. Okay, so what we end up with then is going to sound very British. After, October, November. My last name is Spencer. Getting rid of the R. So let me do that now coming down the scale, and you'll hear a huge difference. It helps to keep the voice dropped and open, tongue flat. After October, November. So much more open of a sound. So that's the first rule. R at the end of a word is never sung. Here is the saying, never ever sing an ending ah. And you will sound like Harry Potter. Never ever sing an ending ah. Okay? So I want you to practice that one because that's going to really help with singing. What I have my beginner students do is anytime they're starting with a song, I tell them to actually go into their music and put a little pencil dash through every ending R in their piece, and that will help you remember when you're starting out. Okay, let's move on to the second R rule. Okay, the second R rule in diction is R between two vowels is also silent. So let's take the word there, T-H-E-R-E. There, I'm going to sing it wrong, there. See, it goes back on the throat. Now, I'm going to sing it, or say it first, excuse me, without using the R. There. See how my vowels drop? Keeps the throat open. There. Here's another one. Here. Here's combining the last rule. Over there. Okay, now let me sing those. Over there. Now let me do it wrong so you hear the R's. Over there. Okay, you hear it right away. So let's do a couple other ones. How about here? here, there. Here's a famous song, The Way We Were, right? So in were, we would leave off the R. The way we were. Okay, you hear that kind of placement? Great. Okay, so let's move on to the third R rule. Okay, and the last R rule I'm going to talk about is R before a consonant is also silent. So turn, burn, learn becomes, now I want you to watch, I'm going to do what's called a puckered U. Turn. So do you notice it's really just a U sound, but it's sort of puckered here, and that keeps the sound open. So I'm going to do it wrong. Here's turn with the R. Turn. Notice my jaw looks tight, and I'm kind of pulled here. But if I go turn, learn, burn, it's so much more open and it doesn't hurt the throat. You're going to have much better resonance. This one tends to be difficult for many people because we're used to talking in dialects. Specifically, I'm from California, so a lot of Californians tend to talk kind of with the tongue pulled back in the back of the throat. So I'm going to start talking like California dude. You know, you see nothing's really moving in my mouth and it's really pulled back. So if I do an R, like turn, you can see it's all locked. Okay, that's typical California. Now in New York, and my friends on the East Coast, New York, they pull in, but sometimes there's tension in the jaw when they sing. So what we're trying to do is relax the jaw on that sound. Learn. So it's very relaxed. So you want to check your muscles here because, again, this is one that a lot of beginners tend to have a little trouble on. Okay, so those are all the basic R rules. R before any word, I mean a word that begins in R, you may say red rose. Those you do sing. Red rose. You know, but the other R's you leave off. Okay, let's move on to diphthongs. Okay, part two. We've just done the R's. Now I want to talk about diphthongs. Diphthongs are two vowel sounds in English that are put together to make the vowel. Now, here's the problem. We have dialects throughout the U.S., and so people sing diphthongs wrong all the time, beginner singers. Let me give you an example of this, and we're going to work on all the rules today. But here's an example: the A sound. Now, most people think, okay, A as in the word day, you would just sing an A, but this is what tends to happen. Things like this: day, like A, day. Okay, especially in the South. That's it. You know, the Southern drawl. I lived in Georgia, but we say day. And there's those diphthongs or and incorrect. Okay, so there's an example. Let me do another one that people do wrong. Night. So you think, oh, it's an I, but this is how people do it. Night, night, things like that. So we're going to start talking about the rules. Now here's the rule. There's two vowels. The first vowel you sing long, and then you barely touch the second vowel. Okay, and I'm going to go over this with specific words. Okay, so let's get right into that, and we're going to start with the A sound. Okay, let's start with the long A sound in English, like in the word day, way, say. Now, what we really say, okay, is eh. I. Like the, so watch. Da, I. Day. So notice I made the S sound long and barely touched the I. So if I was coming down the scale, the 5-finger pattern, I would go da, and barely touch the I at the end of it. Like this. Day. See, it sounds like day, doesn't it? But it's so much more open. Day. Way. Say. Compared to A, that tends to go tight in the jaw this way, which is not and I. So like this. This is wrong. Day. See, it sounds raspy. It sounds tight, ugly. Ugh. So we want I. Again, what really helps is to listen to British movies. Oh, I'm going on a lovely holiday. And you hear that S sound. Oh, isn't it a lovely day? Opening up that sound. So if you listen to British High English on the BBC, like BBC America, there's some great fun shows to watch. That would help you listen to and get the sound of these specific diction rules. Okay, so remember, day is I. Day. Let me do one more. Day. See, my mouth barely moves, okay? Also notice that my tongue is flat. It's not pulled back. I'm going to do it wrong, too, by pulling the tongue back. Day. That's a little bit more swollen, swallowed. A lot of Californian guys tend to do that. They talk kind of like, again, back here, tongue pulled back. So remember, guys, tongue flat. I call it fluffy tongue. Very relaxed, okay? Let's move on to another one. Okay, while the long A sound, like in day, is the phonetic symbols, a capital cursive E and a capital I, like a Roman numeral 1. Remember that? That equals I, day. Now with the word night, like the long I sound, I, what we do is, first of all, the phonetic symbol is a lowercase a. That equals ah. And then the capital I equals I. So we're going to sing night. Ah to I. Let me do it correctly. Down the scale again. Night. Okay? Ah to I. Okay, so bright night. Bright night. Yawning. Ah to I. Okay? So, here's a very famous song, Broadway song a lot of people sing. One of my favorites by Cole Porter is called Night and Day. So now we can use those two diction rules we just learned. Night and day. Let me sing it. Night and day, you are the one. Okay. Night and day. Ah to A. Okay? Good, let's move on. Okay, we're back. One of the most difficult diphthongs for a lot of Americans is oi, as in boy. Now, what happens is, for example, we hear different dialects. So, in back east, we might hear boy or goyle, oi. So, they're saying O to E. But it's actually an open O. O. Barely moving the lips into I. Or. See, it barely moves, and that's tricky for a lot of people. Most singers pull their lips in too much and go, boy, oi. Incorrect, okay? So we want boy. See, you barely move those lips. This is one that takes a bit of practice for a lot of singers. So what I have my singers do, if they have trouble on this, is sing down the scale with an open O first. And the symbol in phonetics for open O is a backwards capital C. O. O. And don't move the lips. Should be a big egg shape, okay? Then what we want is going to the I at the very end. Boy. And barely move the lips, okay? Practice this one at home. This one is a tricky one that pops up. Boy, toy, really opening up the sound. Okay, great. Let's move on to another. Okay, another diphthong that some people have trouble with, specifically Southerners because of the drawl, is ow, like in how now brown cow. Okay, reminds me of My Fair Lady. Okay, and we have to sing ah, See how the lips barely move? Ah. Now. Barely moves, right? But what I hear a lot of beginner singers do is ow, now, like that. So they go now, or we get that W at the end, which we don't want, like now. Okay, I hear a lot of singers, especially soul and R&B singers, you'll hear that kind of edgy, like that "w" on the end, like now. We don't want that. We want no, no, barely moving those lips. Okay, so that takes a bit of work, and there's many times we have to sing those kind of sounds. Okay, so ah, the symbol for that in phonetics is the lowercase a for ah, which is an egg shape again, na, and the sound is a capital U, sort of like a horseshoe. Na. Okay, great, let's move on. Okay, this diphthong I'm going to teach you actually connects in with the R rule. Remember we said that any word that ends in an R, we leave the R off, like never, ever sing an ending ah. Okay, so what happens then with that R? What we're really singing is an unaccented sound. Never, ever. And in English, we call that the schwa. That is that little upside down lowercase e you see in the dictionary. Okay, so never ever sing an ending ah. So now when we get the word hear, ear, dear, we're really singing dear, here. So let me do ear. Okay, now I'm going to do it down the scale. Here. See, you barely touch that at the end. Here's, I remember it was Christmas time and I heard a church and oh my God, the diction was horrible and they were all singing those R's. And so it sounded like this. Do you hear what I hear? Oh God, sounds pretty tight, okay? Like bad country singing. It sounds like Willie Nelson or something, okay? So, yeah. Do you hear what I hear? Keeping it okay? Very, very good. I'm going to teach you, those are most of the diphthongs. I think I gave you the majority of them. I want to give you, before we leave, 2 triphthongs. So a triphthongs would be 3 vowels that you have to sing together. This diphthong I'm going to teach you actually connects in with the R rule. Remember we said that any word that ends in an R, we leave the R off, like never, ever sing an ending ah. Okay, so what happens then with that R? What we're really singing is an unaccented sound. Never, ever. And in English, we call that the schwa. That is that little upside down lowercase e you see in the dictionary. Okay, so never ever sing an ending ah. So now when we get the word hear, ear, dear, we're really singing dear, here. So let me do ear. Okay, now I'm going to do it down the scale. Here. So you barely touch that at the end. Here's, I remember it was Christmas time and I heard a church and oh my God, the diction was horrible and they were all singing those R's. And so it sounded like this. Do you hear what I hear? Oh God, sounds pretty tight, okay? Like bad country singing. It sounds like Willie Nelson or something, okay? So, yeah. Do you hear what I hear? Keeping it okay? Very, very good. I'm going to teach you, those are most of the diphthongs. I think I gave you the majority of them. I want to give you, before we leave, 2 triphthongs. So a triphthongs would be 3 vowels that you have to sing together. Okay, let's look at some triphthongs. Okay, I would like to end this short diction lesson with a triphthong that comes up a lot. And that is like in the word hour or sour, flower. Now what we do is we have actually 3 vowels we have to sing. It's the symbol is the lowercase a for ah, then the uppercase horseshoe u for then the schwa, the unaccented so it becomes ah. See, those lips barely move. I'll do it slow. Ah. Okay, so let me sing that down the scale. Ah. Okay, now that's with a W. Sometimes we can do that, but let me do it without the W. Ah. Okay, so that depends on if you, sometimes what we do is if we're singing more of a classical art song style, then we don't do the W. We do those triphthongs I just showed you. Ah, and then sometimes we can do the W more in a Broadway or pop song. So that's up to you. But the idea is to not close up on that R, right? Remember, we never sing the ending R. So we don't want our. See, wrong. Here's another one. Flower. Really tight. Flower. Hour. With the W, to give you an idea. So here's an example, a Gershwin tune. One of my favorites is called Our Love is Here to Stay. Our love is here to stay. There's a whole bunch of diphthongs. Our love is here, get rid of the R, to stay. Right? There's a whole bunch of diphthongs. So a lot of these songs that we take for granted are really going to use all these diphthongs. So if we can get the diphthong rules in our memory, what will happen is our voice just stays more open, more resonant, cleaner, clearer, air projection, breath is so much easier to do, and so forth. Now, people say, well, Jim, you sound a little bit operatic right now. And I can change my timbre and still do that correctly. So a little bit more of a frontal resonance sound, okay, a little bit more pop sounding. Let me think of on a clear day, rise and look around you. A little bit more of a swinging pop sound, but I still did, clear day. See, I still did those diphthongs correctly. You can edge it up if you're a rock singer with placement. I talk about this in my classes to get an edgier sound without hurting the voice as well. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me. For anybody interested in private coaching in Southern California, I do take students privately as well as for artist development and agent services by audition. I also have other vocal teachers that work in my school that are also available if I'm not, because I book up very, very quickly. Currently, I do have some morning times available, and I do have a little bit of time on the weekend. I can be reached at jamesrspencer.com, and my phone number is 562-394-2694, and that will pop up at the end of the video. Thank you so much for joining me, and I thank all the people that wrote me beautiful emails and letters and responses on how these videos are helping them. So I really appreciate it, and that's what I like, is to get some of the basic information for singing out there so anyone can get started. So if you're new to singing and you don't know where to start, kind of watch some of these videos that are up on my website. It should really be helpful to you. Thanks again, James Spencer, Spencer Music and Artist Development. Have a great day.